Welcome everyone to MailFuzz TV. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek The Next Generation Season 7, Episode 1. It's called Descent Part 2. So yeah, final season begins of Next Generation. It's been a long journey. Obviously this has been a much longer journey than the original series, so it's kind of weird to finally be on the last season. But
yeah, and then it takes even longer now once we've started Deep Space Nine, so we don't move through it quite as quickly as we did.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like Deep Space Nine is just like a taster of what life post TNG is, because we're going to have Deep Space Nine and Voyager alternating for a long time.
We are, but I don't think we're going to feel it as much with those shows because we're going to be used to always having two shows. From the start of Deep Space Nine, it's been that pace.
True.
Whereas TNG had, 5.5 seasons to itself, and then all of a sudden it's oh by the way, now you slow down and watch something else with it.
Oh yeah, that's fair. So yeah, this is the second half of two-parter. Lore turned out to be the mastermind behind Data's aggressive and negative feelings. He's working with some Borg, and that does end up tying into Hugh. Basically, Hugh spread the idea of individuality amongst enough Borg that they became hopeless. It sounds like they were literally lost amongst their own ship, not knowing what to do because they didn't know how to work for themselves. And Lore took them under his wing and effectively has cultivated a cult around himself.
Yeah, 100%. And Hugh's maybe not too thrilled that they sent him back knowing that this could happen.
No, Hugh's kind of in a separate camp of Borg though. He's kind of like not really happy about Lore, so he's with like a separate group. So even the idea of two opposing groups of Borg is already an interesting difference to their past. But what did you make of Descent Part 2?
I think it's pretty good. I think it definitely I think I like it more than the first episode. I think it pays off a lot of the things it set up, and I think it maybe has a few pacing issues, especially in the first half of the episode. But overall, I think it does a pretty good job.
I think I'm a bit more mixed on it. Primarily because I just feel like everything Data does and goes through, it feels like it's not reflected upon enough upon the ending. He makes his switch back, and he comes back and says, "Oh, I've killed Lore," basically, and Picard just goes, "Nice to have you back, Data." And I'm like, we're not going to go into this anymore. And I think my big thing with that is that I get why it is that way, but I really think the fact that he could easily just be turned like he was, with just a bit of hacking effectively, should really be something that maybe has Data himself question, like, how much of a life am I really if I can just be flipped to do someone else's bidding like that as easily as it was?
I think that's fair, but also I don't entirely agree. Part of it is the final scene, like the very final scene with Geordi, I think makes up for a lot of that. And yes, he was hacked, but not, I don't think maybe to the extent that you're making it out. Or maybe the way it came across when you said that then. Because he's not like just, he's mind controlled under Lore's control now entirely. It's not quite that simple. He's controlled into having negative emotions, and then those negative emotions are manipulated.
Also, his ethical chip is turned off. That's the other key thing that Lore did. That's how they get Data kind of back, is that they turn that back on, and he's able to start to question what he's doing. But
it's not as simple as just Lore has complete control because he's been hacked, and Data does what he's told. It's a little bit more nuanced than that.
I think it's nuanced in a bad way, though. As weird as this sounds. Because I feel like it's neither full, he's just being controlled, so he questions if he can just be a puppet. But at the same time, okay, so we've got this murky middle ground where he's not being controlled, but he's being manipulated because he has enough of some of the bad emotions. And I'm like, well, in that case, you had some agency, and you have to address that. You have to talk about the fact that you did those things. But then you also have to talk about, well, I only was able to do those things because this other part of me was hacked, and that stopped me from knowing that they were wrong. It basically all boils down to programming again, and I feel like, if nothing else, Data should feel like this has made me feel less human than I've ever felt before. Because
I think no, I think it does. I think that's what the ending is. All of a sudden, he's like, "Do you know what? I don't think I want feelings." He's complete. You know, six seasons of Data being like, "I need feelings. I want to be a real person." That's been his one primary goal, and then this experience, and all of a sudden, he's like, "Do you know what? I don't think I want that. I don't know if I if I feel like that's a good thing." And that's completely changed his perception of everything.
I also think it hits hard enough. I don't feel it in that final scene. I think it's too quiet, too casual. Like it's treated in such a. It feels like any normal episode. The way he just kind of casually says, "Oh, I'm just going to destroy this emotion chip that's kind of half damaged anyway," and Geordi stops him and says, "No. That's always been your dream. One day when you're ready, maybe I'll have it fixed and you can experience emotions properly." But even that part of it annoys me. Why isn't Geordi saying, "No, you only felt the bad emotions. You didn't feel love. You didn't feel joy. You didn't feel all these other things that balance them out. You just felt really negative ones and they were manipulated." Like, no one talks about any of this in this final 5 minutes of the episode, and it felt like we were just kind of brushing past all of it. So, well, I can logically see where you're coming from with this sort of turning Data's mind on what his goal has been this entire time. I feel like he should be more, I don't know, distraught, I guess, without the feelings that go along with that, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's kind of why I think I like this for all the reasons you don't, if this makes sense. I think we both have a similar reading of the scene, just have a different feeling on the outcome. Because for me, Data being really just casual and flippant is part of that. Is like him being like, "Nope, no feelings, everything's normal, everything's logical." Like it's, for me, that was an intentional choice, but maybe it wasn't.
Well, let me put it this other way then. If Data's he's back to himself, he's purely logical again, all that stuff. Shouldn't he showed concern in the sense that maybe he thinks he shouldn't be trusted the way he is because he can be easily manipulated like this, or because he can do this. He almost killed Geordi. That's the emotional hook of the episode, is that Lore's making him experiment on Geordi and it's slowly killing him, and he has to come to realize that. And I thought they were going to do something more with the fact that Hugh refers to Geordi as a friend. When they brought that up again, that he sees him as a friend, I thought there was going to be either Data feeling jealousy because it's a negative emotion. Maybe he'd feel jealousy when Hugh's there as well, or something like that. Or maybe Hugh saves him and then Data feels guilty because Hugh's more like a real robot friend than Data is, or something. I thought they were going to do something with that, but because they brought it up and then they never really addressed it. In fact, I don't even think Hugh even talks to Geordi for the rest of the episode. So
no, I mean, I guess I didn't expect him. I just thought he's like, "Hey, Geordi's my friend." It's just I think it was more just a reminder of, if you hadn't seen the previous.
I guess it is, but I thought it was setting something up. But I think, I guess if I'm not getting anything else from the end of the episode, I like the idea of Data saying, "You know what? Clearly, because what he says to Geordi, he says that I don't want feelings because I don't want that to get into the way of our friendship, because our friendship means too much to me, right?" And all I could think was, that feels wrong for you to say that then. To me, your read on this should be, I'm too dangerous to have friends, and try and shut himself off from that type of connection from people because he does feel less human than he ever has done. That would be an outcome that would make sense, that would cause drama, and could be a colder Data for a while because he's cutting himself off because he thinks that he is a danger to those around him if he does get too close or whatever. And it's up to the others to, over the course of the season or whatever, to convince them that that's the wrong approach. Instead, though, he's like, "No, we're best friends and I don't want feelings to get in the way of that." And I'm like, you saying that he's your best friend in a weird way is kind of admitting to some kind of feeling, and that's always been a bit of a clash with these ideas in general. But I don't know, the ending did not really work for me in this episode. It kind of made it a bit of a dud overall because I didn't really like any of that.
Yeah, it's just funny to me because for me that scene with Geordi was probably my favorite scene of the episode.
That's fair. Yeah. And I think the rest of it maybe suffers a little bit from there's a lot of back and forth of taking Geordi out the cell where Picard and Troy are, bringing him back to the cell.
The the first half that definitely has some pacing issues.
Yeah, and then all the stuff on the ship feels like
kind of just meaningless. It's there because we have to.
It feels like it was going to have more of a point early on, but then you realize it never really intersects with the other plot again. It's basically just, okay, this Borg ship shows up, so the Enterprise, like, they beam up as many people as they can, and then they're supposed to run away. But Beverly makes the choice, no, we can't leave those people back in the planet. Let's just put a signal through the wormhole or whatever, and we'll come back and try and there's a whole segment to this where they're trying to hide on the opposite side of the planet so the Borg ship doesn't know they're there. And then once the Borg ship does know they're there, their plan is to fly into the sun because their ship can take it, at least for a while. No, I mean, not the core of the sun, obviously, but like, you know, the outer rim of it. The Borg can't do that. And then ultimately, they basically cause us like a solar eruption. Yeah. And it destroys the Borg ship. And it's like, okay. And so much of this is these two red shirts who have been given characters for this episode, so it's basically, there's a woman who's doing all of like Worf's usual tasks, and there's a guy who's doing most of the piloting stuff, more or less.
Yeah, and he's really condescending the entire time, basically.
Yes. So we spend a lot of time,
and he's like, I guess you did know best after all.
Yeah. So we spend a lot of time. Well, it happens both ways round, because there's another part where he does something to her, or she does something to him, and then it turns out to work. So it's basically just a back and forth of like, oh, I thought that was bullshit, but I guess you knew what you were doing. Oh, I thought that was bullshit, I guess you knew what you were doing. And that's it. That, like, it's kind of like masquerading as a story, but it's really just
it's filler subplot.
It's just filler. Honestly, this episode, this two-parter, I should say, feels to me like they had about 60 minutes worth of story, but they had to fill 80 minutes of runtime. And a lot of this part 2 is where I feel the padding is.
I don't feel like this. I think there are very few times where we say there are things in modern Trek that are definitively better than some of the classic Trek stuff, right? I think the ability to have a more flexible runtime that is afforded to modern shows probably is something that, you know, really could have benefited episodes like these. Whereas instead of trying, you know, having to do, you know, have this kind of really forced version with all these extra bits that are just kind of there to pad out the runtime.
I agree with your point in general. I think you're slightly wrong in this case, because I don't think this was born out of a runtime concern. I think this was more born out of, we want the two-parter that splits over the season break, because they've done that every season for like the last 5. And I think it's by design, because they wanted that more than they wanted, like, they had like the story and this is like an episode and a half, so let's stretch the second one out. I think that came later. I think this came at first from, we want a two-parter that goes over, you know, the season break.
Yeah, that's fair.
And, you know, it's not a terrible episode by any means. It was absolutely worse off. But it does feel like it undercooks some of its ideas. You know, Riker and Worf going to find where, you know, everyone else is. Like, it's just kind of them wandering around until they run into Hugh. And that was exciting, because it was like, oh, Hugh's got another faction of Borg. This could be quite interesting. And it all just kind of like it just resolves in them jumping out when Picard's about to get shot by a phaser from Lore. And like Hugh jumps in, and then there's like just Borgs fighting each other in the background as there's laser beams flying around, and it's just kind of a mediocre action scene, and that's kind of it. And they just say, Hugh, why did you do that? He's like, oh, I guess that time with you guys affected me more than I thought. And like, I was excited to see Hugh again, and I feel like they kind of really dropped the ball here, because he's in 2 scenes, and that's it.
Yeah, I really liked his first scene where it's like, oh, hey, you know, the bit where it's like, hey, Geordie's my friend. I get why you had thought maybe that was setting something up. I think that was just, you know, reminder of where he was. But then all these ideas of, hey, you guys sent me back there. Did you guys know that this could happen, that I could spread individuality? And they were like, we might have had a hunch. And he was like, why the hell would you do that? That was terrible.
Hey, don't tell them the rest of the Federation wanted you to send them back with a virus that would have killed everyone.
yeah, exactly.
Might want to keep that part to yourselves. But sure enough, they're individual. I mean, I do like the idea that he says, oh, maybe one day we'll find a leader, and Picard says, no, I think you already have one, implying that Hugh himself is the leader. I mean, that's a nice enough moment, but I feel like we really should have spent, like, if this was going to be two-parter, like, a lot of this second part should have been really exploring Hugh's attitude, where he is now, what, you know, why he doesn't like lore, all that stuff.
Cut the entire Beverly subplot and give all that time, all 6 minutes of it, to Hugh running his base and how he's doing, you know, and what you know, how they're holding out alongside lore, like, you know, because they're on, you know, proximity-wise, they're pretty close. You know, they're, but also keeping secret, you know, and why, you know, they have this ideological differences beyond just not being indoctrinated.
Yeah. Now, there's a good chance they're going to ruin the Borg later, but I do at least appreciate at this point that they make it clear this is a small pocket of Borg, and the main collective Borg, who are still like the traditional Borg threat.
Around.
Yeah, they're still around, which is good. Obviously, we'll get to maybe the controversial additions they make to the Borg later and in the movies. Which, by the way, the plan is, just in case we've not mentioned this in a while, the next gen movies, we're literally going to slot them into where they fit in terms of when they came out between the other shows. So, assuming some of them come out in the summer, they'll probably just be in between seasons of Deep Space Nine and Voyager. But yeah, wherever they fall,
for us to check.
Yeah, wherever they fall is where we'll do them. So yeah, really mixed bag for me, this episode. You know.
I liked more than I didn't. I had problems with pacing more than anything, especially first half and the subplot being useless. But the core idea landed a lot more for me than it did for you.
I think a big part of it as well is that first episode, it felt like, you know, like something weird's happened with Data and he's ran off with the Borg, and it leads to this trip through this conduit, which takes him to the Gamma Quadrant, which leads to this mysterious planet with this structure. And maybe it's just like a crescendo problem, but I feel like this entire episode just taking place in this set of this structure made this feel really small compared to what it felt like it was building up to in that first half. It felt like we were going on this epic journey, and then it's just this building. And, you know, like, it doesn't matter that we're in another part of space we've never been in before. It's barely brought up.
I think on an objective level, yes, you're absolutely right. I assume their intent was, well, lore is interesting enough that we don't need to keep hopping. We don't need to get bigger and bigger. You know, we've gone to lore now. It's got personal stakes, and that's enough. They're not saying it necessarily lands, but I assume that was their intention.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, Lore himself, we really talked about him in this episode, and I think that's maybe emblematic of the whole problem of the episode as well.
He has one scene that I absolutely love, though.
Sure, but for the most part, he's just kind of reiterating the same things over and over again, you know?
He is. It's Lore 101. It really is. Just, you know, it's the same motivations as always. But that scene where there's the one Borg who's like, I don't want to be plugged into the you know, the Lore collective. Kind of want to be an individual. I'm a little bit, you know, concerned. And Lore does this, like, really fantastic kind of, he turns on the charm, like, but in like a really, you know, cult leader sort of way.
Yeah, intimidating
like,
almost.
Yeah, or he's like, hey, you're scared. I get it. That's natural. We all are. But I need you to plug in so that everyone else, you know, you can lean on their strength. And like, he frames it in this really not unique way, but charismatic way, you know, in that cult leader sense. And I think, you know, the acting's brilliant for that sequence. It's just the way he does it. It's so good.
I think if there was more of that, and also just more that he generally had like more of a direction that he was going in with these Borg following, it kind of feels like, he's doing some experiments on them. And I did enjoy seeing a couple of the victims of the experiments who are like sort of like sitting there almost like mannequins, just sort of twitching. I'm like, okay, that's kind of a cool visual as far as like, you know, it's making me sympathetic towards the Borg. That's quite interesting. But it kind of feels aimless in the sense that he is just generally being evil and wants to do evil things. And I mean, that's kind of Hugh's problem, is that like all he's doing is experimenting and not really delivering on his promises. And I'm like, okay, but does he have like some sort of end goal in mind? Maybe that's something he could have revealed to Data at the end when he's like, hey, Data, just come with me, forget all these humans and all these Borg. We could just be together as brothers, kind of thing. Maybe he could have revealed something there. It was like, oh, this is what I was planning to actually do with my Borg following, you know, what my end goal was. And it kind of just feels a bit, he's Lore and he's just being Lore, and they never really think to give him any sort of actual goal specific in mind, you know?
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. It is very much. I like his character. I think he, he's great on screen to watch, but he doesn't have much real identity as a goal.
I think that's the big thing that makes this episode disappointing to me after the first half, is that the first half, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about everything getting into part two, but the one thing that felt clear watching that was that it felt like everything going on with this clear manipulation of data, that it was targeted, everything felt like it had a purpose, like there was a really specific purpose in mind, and we were waiting for that like answer. And we get to this episode and it's like, well, you could have just done this like a year ago or 2 years ago. Like,
Lord swaned his brother. He was lonely.
Sure. Like, why now? I don't know. I know this was a mixed bag. Sadly, I wanted to like it more, but hey, it is what it is. It did have a little bit of a Rocket Raccoon moment, bizarrely. I didn't expect to think of Guardians of the Galaxy, but Data insists Geordi give him his visor, and then he takes it to Lore and says, "I got Geordi's visor. What did you want it for anyway, Lore?" And he's like, "Oh, I just thought it would look good on me." And he puts it on, and I was like, "Oh, that's Rocket wanting the eye." That's what that is.
I mean, that's the joke. It's not the actual. Obviously, there was a reason he wanted it, but the way it plays there today is the joke. Yeah,
it's very much that. But hey, so that's Descent Part 2. Obviously, next time on Next Gen, we'll be back to Deep Space Nine. In fact, I think for at least the first 10 episodes of both shows, we are just straight swapping 1-to-1. So we'll just be going back and forth for at least the first 10 of each. But the next episode of Next Gen is called Liaisons, and here we go. On a diplomatic mission, Worf, Troy, and the captain deal with 3 aliens who explore foreign concepts with extreme singular focus. Okay, but I've got a very serious question though. Do they have diplomatic immunity?
I knew you were going to say that then, because you almost accidentally said diplomatic immunity at the start. I caught that.
It may have been a little slip. It may have been a little Freudian slip.
Yeah. You played your hand too early.
Oh well. That just made people tantalizing for the payoff.
They knew it was coming, and they were waiting, and they were edge of the seats.
Hey, you know an orgasm's coming when it's coming. You still enjoy it all the same. Like, that's just.
I can't argue with that.
So, yeah, that's the next episode. We'll see how that goes. Let us know what you thought of this one in the comments. Like, subscribe, all the usual stuff. Of course, you can support us by going over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and supporting us over there for money some month. You get the Star Trek reviews a little bit early. And at the $5 tier and up as well, you now get a monthly video game podcast with myself and Connor. So if you like the sound of us talking for video games for 3 hours a month, by all means, go and check it out. The first episode, though, that said, is free. It's a free post on Patreon, so you can just go over and listen to it if you want to, or watch the video. But go and have a look-see. But that is the show. So thank you very much for joining us. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Star Trek. And somewhere out there with too many emotions, some might even call him a crybaby, is one Wesley Crusher.